Hey everyone, today we are looking at Radiant, a Eurorack module made in collaboration with Dnipro and Sinevibes. It's got a lot of neat features, including multiple cores of effects and a unique effect preset morphing system. Our opening sequence is from the noise engineering Laquelic Iteratus Persido, my beloved. Alright, first off are our filters. These remain accessible regardless of what effect cores are doing. We have high pass, notch, and low pass. There are CV inputs to modulate each filter as well. Let's bring in the effect mix and check out the controls. Radiant has two distinct effect cores at the time of filming this, and each one has three separate effects you can engage. This is independent of the space and filter effects. If I hold function and press the middle core button, I can switch between the two currently available main cores. Once a core is selected, I can use the middle button to select from the three different effects that each core has in it. We'll go into each effect more in depth in a bit. Orbit, frequency, and feedback are controls whose purpose change for each effect. In the case of this dub delay, orbit is stereo width, frequency is delay time, and feedback is delay feedback. The space control controls size and amount of reverb. Just with space up, delay going, and the notch filter modulated, I think this module sounds fantastic. There is a dedicated button marked VCF that, if pressed, will toggle the filters to affect the wet signal only or the dry and wet signal combined. The flip button reverses the sound based on the incoming clock, of which Radiant expects a 4 ppqn or 16th note clock. You can have the flip effect affect the dry or the wet signal, and it sounds dope. We'll get into this feature more later, but by hitting the memo key, you enable the preset system, where you can save 3 presets, one to each triad slot, and switch between them with a button or with CV, and choose smooth, interpolation, or stepped. Let's set up a new sequence so you don't get bored and check out the different effects. We'll break off and check each one out in more depth as we go. Like I said earlier, Radiant is made up of, at the time of filming, 2 effect cores with 3 effects per core. The first we encounter is dub delay. The next is frequency shifter, and we'll bounce on over to a dedicated patch for this so you can really hear it. I wanted to really ring out the frequency shifter with a dedicated patch, so that's what this is. I've had a lot of fun with the Zayok Kozalin frequency shifter, and this one can give you similar results with its own flair. I have qubit surface running into Radiant, and down at the bottom of the case I have modulation from Acid Rain Maestro running into attenuverters plus a control for the decay of qubit surface. When in frequency shifter mode, orbit controls a stereo chorus, frequency is the frequency of the shifter, and feedback is the feedback of the shifter. If you've never heard a frequency shifter before, it's a really unique sound that's fun to get nasty with. Let's take the output of Radiant and run it into Noise Engineering's Ruina Versio for extra distortion. This sounds like Doom. Hell yeah. Okay, so that was the frequency shifter. Let's head back and check out the other effects. The third effect in this triad is called retrigger, and it's a standout to me. This effect takes your sound and chops it up and retriggers it according to 3 controls. Frequency controls the speed of repetition. Feedback is the pattern of the repetition with different rhythmic chopping patterns. And finally, orbit introduces a filtered envelope to the sound. To the right is a high pass, and to the left is a low pass. Let's check out the next core. I'll hold the function button and press the core button to switch to the yellow core. The first effect we encounter here is distortion. In this effect, the orbit frequency controls a decimator, the orbit control is a chorus, and the feedback control is the distortion amount. After that, we encounter an interesting one, the chord wrapper. Let's break off and explore this one in more detail. The chord wrapper takes an incoming note and attempts to harmonize with it using DSP. We're using a pretty simple sound for the piston Honda here, as the chord wrapper can freak out with complex sounds. In this mode, the orbit control is a chorus, and I like to keep this chorus around 11 for this mode, as it gets really, really warbly beyond that. The frequency knob controls the harmony structure, and it reminds me a lot of how the 4MS ensemble oscillator sounds in some configurations. Finally, the feedback knob seems to spin up higher and higher iterations of the harmony, leading to a sort of shrill shimmer effect. If we're careful with roading and settings, we can get a shimmer reverb of sorts out of this. Cool, let's finish up with a chord wrapper and switch to the last effect in this triad. The last effect is a phaser. A phaser is like a notch filter, but usually with more notches. This phaser sounds really juicy and will auto-modulate using the clock and the frequency knob. Yeah, it sounds good as hell. But hey, surprise, that was mostly the notch filter being modulated. Let's explore the phaser a bit before moving on. Next up, we'll explore the memo system and how you can save presets and access them. First, you want to dial in a setting for an effect you want to save. This sounds good to me. I'll hold Function and press Memo, and choose which slot I want to save in it by pressing the core button. Once I've picked that, I'll hit Memo again. Now we can choose 2 more presets and repeat that process. Once we've saved all 3 preset slots, we hit Memo and enter our preset mode. It's on the slot of the preset we last changed and saved, so we don't have a change in audio yet. We can hit the core button to switch between the last 3 saved presets, or we can put CV into the input and modulate between them individually. One thing to note is that the memo system doesn't seem to be able to switch cores, so you're stuck modulating between the 3 effects on one core or the other. Let's try this on the core with distortion, phaser, and chord wrapper. That's pretty damn cool. Next up, we'll move away from tonal material and demo some drums through Radiant. Starting with distortion, which it feels like there may be some latency on the distortion, maybe. I really love the stereoization feature of it, which makes me think really fondly of Ruina Versio. I use Ruina into Dismodus for a lot of my drums, and it's nice to have something else that can sort of approach that vibe. The decimator is also a nice touch here, and we'll explore that more in a bit. dub delay with some space sounds great on drums, and as we've already established, the frequency shifter is also cool on drums. I want to run this into Ruina for more distortion, so let's patch that up. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Chord wrapper is definitely weird. Alright, well, there were some drums through the thing. Hope that gives you a sense of some of the other possibilities. Next up, I want to show you one of my favorite things to do with a decimator, and that's make a talking bass line. I first heard this in an old Dirty Bird track by Justin or Christian Martin, and I was immediately obsessed with it. The idea is that you take a slightly resonant subtractive bass sound, rich waveform through a low-pass filter, and run it through a decimator. The artifacting makes it sound like a vocal. We're using the steady-state Fate Zephyr into the black and blue Foxtrot duo into Radiant. Ah, there it is. And slow modulating the decimator frequency sounds really, really good too. It also sounds fantastic on these kind of French touch type arpeggios. Yeah, I mean, I like that. All right, one last patch. In this one, I have a bunch of presets set up in memo mode, and we're feeding Radiant from the 4MS ensemble oscillator. I have a bunch of modulation ready to go down here that I'll bring in via attenuverters. I'll start by modulating the ensemble oscillator spread, twist, and warp, and then we'll modulate Radiant's notch, preset slot, and finally a complex pattern to the low-pass filter. All right, that's all from me today. Thank you so much to Dnipro for providing this unit for demo. I hope you all have enjoyed. You can find links to this in the description, and you can also find a link to support the channel via Patreon if you want. Till next time, my name is Jeremy. Hope you have a wonderful day.